When I was a kid, I daydreamed about being shrunk down to a tiny size and running around in the yard, and that was largely in part due to Honey I Shrunk the Kids being an incredibly popular movie for me growing up. I'd imagine the developers for Grounded are in my age group. When I picked this up originally last year, I didn't have a lot of time to play it, so now that there's been a lot of updates to it, I want to take a look and see what they've added. If anybody's checking this out because they're thinking about buying the game, I will be honest about what I think about it, but this isn't a review. The game's not officially out, so I don't feel like that's a fair thing to call it. So instead, in these Let's Be Frank videos, I want to call it a preview, because we're looking at an early access game and we're looking at it for what it is and what it could become. First and most obvious question is it playable? Pun fully intended, there are tons of bugs in this game, but there's also bugs in this game. If I'm being fully transparent, there was a ton of things that I was allowed to kill just simply because they were stuck in the terrain and weren't able to get to me. It's a little surprising to see in a non-procedurally generated game, but it happens, it's early access. The fighting in this game is actually a lot of fun. You have to get used to the moves of the enemy and you have to know when to block, but as you get better at it, you truly will feel like you're improving. The real challenge comes when you come across new enemies that you've never seen before and you have no idea what they're going to do to you. Which is a great segue into the death system. There's not a huge punishment for dying in the game. You'll drop your bag and you have to run back to get your corpse, like a lot of games, but there's no real death penalty. As I play through this, my main question really is, where do they intend to go with it? As it stands right now, we have an open world game without any real direction. Comparing it to games like Valheim, where you have kind of an overarching goal of defeating bosses and progression, you have a general idea of what to look at and where to go, at least what to move towards. With this game, you don't have any of that at all. As a player, the backyard is a very mysterious place. There's not a lot of backstory. There's cassette tapes that you discover along the way that give you a little bit of storyline, but it doesn't really tell you why you're there or what you're moving towards. Which could be great, it could be exactly what you're looking for. If you want a casual experience where you're just building something in the backyard, exploring, and kind of moving towards nothing in particular, that's an awesome experience for you. But I fear that players who are used to getting quest directions or are looking for kind of a plot-driven game might feel something is a little lacking with Grounded. However, I say that tentatively because there is definitely a base quest line in the game as it stands right now. It just seems to kind of end right away. If they do manage to continue that on, I think it would be really interesting. Right now, this main quest line just kind of takes you into meeting a character that can give you repeatable quests. The main draw of this game, the thing that keeps me coming back, is exploring and just really seeing new things from a new perspective in this backyard. Despite it having a static level, there's always new things to see, it seems, in this little tiny backyard. But when you're also the size of an ant, everything seems so big. There's not a really easy way to tell in the game when you've gone from a safer area to an area that's full of more dangerous creatures. It's also fun figuring out for the first time which creatures are friendly and which ones are not. I promise you they spared no intensity on the spiders in this game. Some of the newer things that they've added since the last time I've played have been flying enemies, a lot of building materials, and an entire underwater area for the koi pond. Regardless of your opinion of the gameplay, you can't deny that this game is pretty beautiful. Just based off of what I've seen already, I'd be very interested to see what more they'd want to add to this backyard. What I'm going to look at when I recommend a game is going to be based on the value that you get for what you pay. Right now, this game is selling for $30 on Steam. When I compare it to a game like Valheim, which is only $20 but feels like a much more full game with a lot more direction, it's a hard thing to recommend. That said, I see huge potential in this game. If it's developed in the right direction, it could be a lot of fun for a lot of people. Right now it's hard to recommend, but who's to say what happens down the line? I'm going to keep an eye on it. If you're watching out there and you already have this game and are interested in a certain type of content, let me know and I'll see if I can cover it like I did with Valheim. Plus, that might keep me from dumping 20 hours into building a giant base out of grass. Anyway, I hope you liked the video. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.